So nice to see all of you here. Thank you again for your time today. I just wanted to highlight and make a very few but important hard-hitting points. India today has absorbed in 2024 128 million square feet. 81 of this comes from our record high office absorption, of which, the point to note, it's not just the international demand and not just the GCCs that is driving and fueling that. It's domestic demand as much. 50% of that, approximately 50% of that 81 million square feet is purely domestic absorption. 40 million of that 128 figure that I mentioned comes from industrial and warehousing space. And the remaining 7 to 8 million square feet comes from retail. Retail, again, while we're talking about retail, it's important to note that 100 new international brands have come into India. 100 international brands in the last year itself. And another 100 domestic customer-based, direct-to-customer brands that then lead to taking physical infrastructure as their next avatar. So that's the kind of growth that we've seen across these three verticals. Let's talk about housing. Some say it's 350,000 units, some say it's 380,000 units, but that's the universe in which the absorption has taken place last year. There's going to be growth around these airports, around the infrastructure. We are in a very exciting India, and it's this room that's shaping the country.
We will now be having the launch of the white paper. I would like to invite Mr. Ravi Kaushal, Managing Director, Consulting and Valuation Services, India, Middle East and Africa, CBRE, to join us on stage, please.
We essentially cover all the segments of real estate financing, from equity, debt, what's happening on the banking sector, NBFCs, AIFs, private equity, etc. But I'm not going to bore you with all the results. As an investor, there are two very important things when you're looking at an asset class. One is the investable universe, which is the size. Do you have opportunity to scale up? And second is what sort of performance you're seeing on the demand side. Is it resilient? Is it diverse? Is it organized, etc.? Now, if you look at the growth numbers for some of the leading segments in the real estate sector, whether it's office or warehousing, and we have residential and retail in subsequent slides, then between 2014 and 24, we've seen an average CAGR growth of about 7 to 8% in these sectors. So they've almost doubled. For example, office, that was about 460 million square feet, and these are for top 7 or 8 markets. That's almost crossing 900 million square feet now, and about 1 billion square feet in another 2 years. Our projection is that these sectors can see a growth of anywhere from 40% to upwards of 50% in the coming decade or coming 5 to 7 years.
So, but just moving ahead, addressing the basis of the sector, which is demand. Vivek, if I could just bring you in. Whatever we are witnessing, so you've been a lender, right? You've been in stress situations. So from your seat, are you witnessing sustained growth, or you think this is cyclical? So is it like basically structural demand or more sentiment driven? How are you seeing the market?
I think it's a bit of both sustainable as well as structural. When I say sustainable, because over the past 5 years, the residential sales have jumped 40-50% annually. Developers are seeing more velocity. There are enough capital providers to you, in terms of the developers who are doing good quality product in the market. Structural because, there were a lot of people, they were on the edge pre-COVID, whether they want to really buy their first homes. But I think post-COVID, people have realized that homes give a sense of, stability. And that is where, the structural demand has come into. A lot of new couples have started buying in new homes, whether it's 1 BHK or 2 BHKs. But a lot of people have decided that they want to own homes, whether, it's a luxury product or a middle-income product. Sentimentally side also, if you look at families who are growing and people who are earning higher pay packets want to move to a larger home. So we've seen both, a sustainable as well as a sentimental demand from the consumer angle. But the challenge of the hour still remains that developers that want to complete their projects on time and they want to deliver a good quality product. So obviously construction cost being one of the challenges, and then the regulatory approvals being the other hurdle. So if the entire sector is able to manage the regulatory as well as the construction cost angle, the demand has always been there, domestically.
In the last 2 to 3 decades, how have you seen the real estate markets evolve in terms of economic and regulatory conditions, and how did you navigate these changes over the years?
I think 10 years, a lot has happened. I won't belabor too many of the points. Obviously, RERA has happened. That's been positive, very clearly from an investor confidence point of view. GST happened. So many other things in the middle, of course, have happened. But largely speaking, I would say it's been positive for the real estate industry. And the key thing that has happened has nothing to do with regulation. That was COVID. So what COVID has done very clearly is, I think, one, obviously huge sales, huge collections, the leverage of the entire industry has come down. But more importantly, with capital market also kicking in, I think it has created sort of two separate segments. These are the large listed companies, well rated, which now have access to capital market and have access to debt capital market as well, the mutual funds, and then the others. And that's where I think the game has changed for the larger players having a multitude of sources and competitive sources compared to others. And that gap, I think, is what needs to be navigated by the industry now as more and more people look to maybe list themselves or get into that space. From a lender's point of view, I think it's been a mixed story for the last 7-8 years. On one side, the number of lenders have clearly come down. Two, and I always say this on a lighter note, no MD and CEO of a bank ever goes out and says that I want to increase my exposure on real estate, right? His stock will come down 5% the next day. So that unfortunately remains a sort of, from a market point of view, real estate is seen as risky. Number of players have come down, but alternate capital has come in, I think, but that's expensive capital. From NBFC bank point of view, regulatory stringent has become much more stringent. Therefore, we can't do a few of the things that we used to do earlier, say financing of land, etc., giving general corporate purpose loans. So we need to change ourselves as well. I think that's the way we need to navigate. For example, we at Kotak, it's clear for us we can't fund land. So earlier, we would never allow certain part of collections to be taken out of a project. We would now allow the developer to do that, subject to RERA guidelines, of course, so that money is free and used and can be used. So I think it's been an interesting last 8-10 years. I think both developers have changed, so have lenders, and I think that's the way it will go, because regulations will only become tighter for the lending industry.
I'll briefly talk about the need for the product, the solution it offers, and the key benefits. So before I move on, I just want to clarify the use case. This product is not just for lenders and funds. I feel that the use case is a lot with developers as well. And we can also house this dashboard on your servers if you feel that's a safer way to go about. The tool is developed as a 100% customizable solution, so that you get to see the performance matrix that you think is important for you and not a dashboard that we have visualized. Another important feature is the layered views. Not everybody needs to see everything. CXOs get a summarized view, analysts get a detailed, broken down view. You choose the layering. The system can fetch data from any system, normal Excel files to ERP exports. We won't ask anybody to fill any formats for us. We can pull out data from even raw files. And CBRE need not be monitoring the projects on ground. We can actually feed the data from the raw files and implement our dashboard. Lastly, the product is developed in-house by CBRE, which has an experience of handling and monitoring over 300 plus projects in the last 3 to 4 years. and thus the analytics brings together the experience that the team has. It's a 70 plus member team. CBRE will also provide the tech support across regions. So we hope you find this product useful.
HDFC Bank has been a significant player in the Indian mortgage market. What trends are you observing in the evolving customer behavior and preferences?
Yeah, so on the mortgages side, of course, clearly we are at a cusp in terms of really big changes, big growth coming in. Post-pandemic, as we all know, most of us have all wanted to move away from our old homes into new, bigger, better quality structures, and that's been a big change. Though in that whole story of moving into new homes, it has created a little bit of a shift in the affordability, and that's a little bit of a challenge that I perceive, but that's a shorter term challenge, which is adjustment on what's really happening on the demand-supply gap. But the bigger thing that I see here is that there's a lot of strong push from the government of India to really see how affordabilities can be improvised. There are new schemes which are coming in from the government. There are a host of benefits that they are talking to the real estate and the developer fraternity, so that end of the day the affordability is taken care of. And very honestly, as per our house view, we see that in the middle and the lower middle there is a huge demand that can be unlocked if the affordability is taken care of. So that's the big opportunity that I see coming up.
So just to add on, like you rightly said, are we also seeing the demographic shift in the pattern of people buying real estate? Like earlier there used to be a certain age criteria of about 35, 40 plus buying real estate. Has it shifted?
Not very honestly. Our internal booklet, what we see in our day-to-day, it's in the same range. People, I think, once they start living, once they start earning, they want to give themselves that 7-8 year or 10-year kind of window to see the stability of cash flow, that in the range of 35 to 37 is where they come in to kind of start looking at homes. That's not really changed. And I think it's good, because that's the conservative consumer behavior, which certainly helps institutions at the end of the economy to kind of have a structured long-term play.
Our topic today is growth capital for the last decade. Mr. Sharma, I want to come to you, sir. You mentioned your project finance division was set up in 1995, so you have seen much more in Indian real estate than any of us have. What do you feel are the risks for us, not just from a capital perspective, but from a real estate economy perspective? What are the things we need to watch out for?
See, if you look at the composition of our economy, is it moving towards manufacturing or not? We are around 60% services. The only way GDP can grow is that to increase our manufacturing. Is it growing? This Saturday there is an event in Delhi regarding the innovation of the electronics component manufacturing scheme. And if you see the last couple of years, every half year, you keep hearing something or the other coming to the market. So what we are seeing now that not only the entrepreneurs are doing their bit in the market, but the government is also every now and then working behind the scene to see how the manufacturing space can grow. With all that growth in GDP, you need real estate. One more piece I'll like to share with you. Earlier, maybe 10 years back, when we were looking at the composition of the professional in India, you would not find the middle class experts in India. I go to all major cities and I keep meeting a lot of them, and I ask them that what brings the middle class experts in the country. So they're happy in the Bangalore traffic, they're happy at the Noida. Sea change, earlier you only saw CEOs, not the middle class experts. That means not only we within India have a belief the way economy is growing, but the people who are familiar with India, willing to work and look at India, they're happy coming over here. We, as a part of the lending side, we see a lot of activity happening. The momentum would only going to increase, and with all that momentum, real estate is the bone, if I say. So without real estate, whether whatever way you look at the hospitals, education sector, office space, other services industry, data centers. So now, for example, AI, till the other day, AI was something different. Now, each sector would need these facilities. So whether you talk of health, earlier you were having the disease only for certain industries. Now for each sector you need these capability centers. Banking we have. My sense is the growth of the real estate market would certainly keep pace. I don't see any challenges, at least for next decade. And the kind of new industries coming up every day. I am positive that we will have a good growth and no concern on our side.